Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So dear devotees, Uh, last 2 weeks, we have been presenting the different Varnashrama college models, how a Varnashrama college could look like. And so the first week we discussed about the uh, alternative health care that we may need to um, uh, help facilitate, develop for a self-sufficient farm village to have security in healthcare, starting from childhood, birth, pregnancy to old age. And so that's a whole 2 weeks back we discussed that, and it's an ongoing thing at our Florida farm and New York farm too. And then we discussed last week the cow protection, the ideal, Srila Prabhupada talks about the ideal program of cow protection that we should do. So we discussed about cows overall, how we could do it now, and how much research work, how much of organized effort, how much of specifically starting from the cow milk, getting the right breeds together, and the the hay, the rotational grazing, and then all the research work required to make it a science so that it can be efficiently done. Um, Starting from milking to suckling of the calf and the cows, and making a ethical dairy standard, which we discussed all about how Northeast dairies could also adopt them, how to do that, training program and milk cooperative and brand and certification and like that. We discussed many things on that topic. What we did not discuss was related to oxen, the or the male calves. So today, that is what we are going to discuss. That is the a longer discussion. Let me see if Ramananda Prabhu could join, because that's where he is really focused on. I think maybe he's shoveling snow, too much snow in the Northeast. Okay. So oxen and male calves. So the starting from uh, first of all, we see this is Lord Balaram's um, protection. They are under Lord Balaram's protection. He is always with his, the what's it called, the plow in his hand. It's a single plow, not a many. So single plow he has. That's one of his accessories. His weapons also he uses. That Bilwal demon was there. He caught him by this plow and brought him down. And so, and he is basically showing how Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Krishna, he is protecting the cows, and Lord Balaram is protecting the bull. So we are going to, under his direction, that's how I think about pleasing the Lord. Lord Balaram's form is his mood of the Lord. And when I think about ox or bull protection, the male calves, so he is of course using bulls and oxen. Now, that is the first thing to discuss. What is a bull? What is an oxen? First of all, just like human beings, the cows don't give milk as, unless they have given birth to a baby. And the baby generally, it's like maybe 50-50. Average, if we take 50 are females, 50 are males. Maybe a little bit ratios may be different, but this is how the general law of nature is. So when um, have one has a dairy or even a home operation where homestead operation where we have one or two cows, soon enough, in a few years, like every year or every 1.5 years, if we are impregnating the cows, then within 5 years we will have maybe with one cow around 2-3 bulls. That's a lot. And and then and and their female babies, they also gradually, when they develop within 5 years, they will also produce a couple of more progeny, and one or two maybe bulls too, and then it goes on. So very soon one ends up in any dairy, one ends up with male calves. In in the normal dairies all around, including in India, what generally happens is most of these dairies, they in India, maybe not directly, but at least in the US, they directly send them to the slaughterhouse. For the In India, they just let them go in jungle or someplace where kind of hush hush it is there that the Muslims will come and take them for beef. But they don't take active part in it. They don't probably get money out of it like in Indian dairies, and like in USA dairies. But they kind of know that this is what is going on. They actually kind of coordinate, they know what time they're going to come, so that the calves, they leave them on the that night or that early morning, so that later in the day Muslims can come and pick them up in the truck. And so that's like this is the hidden truth. Within 1 month, 2 months, till the cow is in India, they do it more often, more later, because they know the cows will be happy if they're giving milk to the baby, and they want as much milk as possible. In the US dairies, because they are bottle feeding, so it's not so much, and they're like pumping the cow with so many hormones and such, so they don't so much care about how soon the baby is removed. Actually, they want the baby to be removed, whether it's male or female, from the cow, so the cows don't develop affection. So now we come to what do we do about it? Because in our model, as Srila Prabhupada wants it, that model doesn't allow, or we cannot have male calves being sent to, killing. And so, but what do we do with the financially, because there are so many male calves being produced, and when they have to be fed? One of the main aspects which people have been trying here in the US dairies is sex semen. And I want to discuss that. I was hoping Ramananda Prabhu was there and we could discuss it back and forth. So I guess today he's not coming, or maybe later. So we will table it. Hari Kirtan Prabhu, you have any points to make about the sex semen?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, I left my phone charging. I've got my headphones in. Um, uh, no, not really. I mean, the I'm curious what would be the perspective from the Vedas on interfering in that way. There is, so it's interesting. That is the modern way of manipulating and interfering with the gender of the cow of the babies.
Yeah.
But there are methods that you can control, or at least not control, but influence the ratio of male and female calves. And it has to do, I don't know personally through this, but I have heard from different people and read various things that something along the lines of that the ratio shifts when the bulls are working, the uh the temperature and the environment also shifts, and there's a few factors which cause the the cows to give a higher ratio of female calves or a higher ratio of male calves.
Mhm.
And if one understands that science nicely, then one can slightly adjust the herd in a skew it in a particular direction. Like I said, I don't know all the details. So with that being a an understanding and a science, a way of doing that, I'm curious how that would, you know, how the modern method would be like. Well, it's essentially the same thing. We're just doing it in a test tube. As I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious what everyone's thoughts on that are. I don't have much else to say on it. So
So yeah, that's interesting. And there are other ways too. Astrologically, on this particular day, this nakshatra, if one does it, and you can feed the male and the female cows in certain manner. It's the same thing in human beings too. There is a science around it, and one could get potentially more female calves or male calves in human beings, as as there's so many people want. So whichever way it is possible, it is there is a science around it, and more we come to know, more one can derive benefit. How is it different? This is also a science, sex semen science. They weigh the semen. It's so tiny, but they have figured out a way to weigh the semen. Actually, Dr. Bhaswati Bhattacharya, one of our friends in Ayurveda field, she was saying that in the 60s, 70s, her father designed this, figured it out. He was an Indian, and he was doing it in uh, in the villages of Bengal, West Bengal. Maybe a little later, but I don't remember. But sometime 60s, 70s, 80s, I don't know. But sometime there he was doing it. And then he was called by many US universities. And then he started traveling in the US and he started propagating this science. And he used to weigh, he read it from the scriptures. It's weight is different. So he somehow figured out that one should weigh the semen or something. And that's how he was doing it. So it's not like now what they had started doing is they are taking the chromosome and kind of branching it out some way. That is more of a you can say interference. One side could say it is interference, and other side could say it's a science. That just like there is any other science of you are talking astrology or feeding or this time of the day and temperature, and like in Bhagavad, in Krishna book, it is described that they would impregnate the cows during autumn season. And actually in the Vedic culture, more or less, it was that ox was preferred too. I mean, it's not like men or female, there was different because both were equally being used. So, but a family or a village could use some preference. At certain time they want more females, at certain time they want more males, so that science was there. See, one could say this is also a science. Why you're calling it interference? Hare Krishna, Ramananda Prabhu, nice to have you here. We've been discussing the sex semen thing, how to prevent so
yeah,
many male calves to develop. Is there a way to do it? And Hari Kirtan Prabhu was saying in Vedas, this is also a science, how to get male and how to get female calves. So I was saying this is also a science which has developed by medical science. veterinary science. What is the difference?
Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I'm sorry, I thought today was Friday. Uh, it doesn't help with the holiday season.
Hare Krishna Ramananda
Uh,
Prabhu. So yeah, I'm curious. It's similar to like what I would see as like agriculture or medicine, allopathic medicine. So, medicine is we have a Vedic science of medicine. There's a Vedic science of agriculture. There are different practices. There are modern ones, and agriculture in and of itself, or medicine in and of itself, is not a bad thing. But maybe there are negative impacts to the way that it is conducted. You know, and so as we can see, allopathic medicine has so many side effects and so many problems, as does modern agriculture. And so many problems that come about because of the way it's conducted. So, not that farming or cultivating the land is a bad thing, but that it has to be done in a way that is um, does not produce a poisonous product, and does not destroy the land in the process. So I'm curious about this. When it comes to the Vedic sciences, where even surgery was a first performed. We used to have the first recorded surgeries were done in India by Ayurvedic physicians, and it's described. Various surgical procedures are described in the Ayurveda. So it's this is a very interesting point of connection between the knowledge in the Vedas and what the scientists have supposedly discovered. So I'm very curious about how this what should be accepted and what should not.
Mm. Yeah, I've been researching this thing. I came to some conclusions and understanding. I want to hear Ramananda Prabhu's point of view. You- Have you been thinking about it, Prabhu? Have you researched this?
yeah, well, there was a question that came up last week when I was discussing with my wife, um, and we were looking forward to this conversation, and we're aware of the possibility of sect semen. Um, and it's not certain, right? It increases the chances generally from 50-50 to 80-20, from my understanding. Have you heard otherwise?
No. I want to hear from you. Compare notes then.
Okay, so I have very limited knowledge about it, but from what we understand is that if you do, uh, it's very it's relatively cheap to do, but it's generally available in artificial insemination that you can increase the chances from a 50-50 boy to girl to 80-20 girl. And generally, people would want girl. But I want to do some follow up with some of the dairy farmers around here to see if it's a fact. We've been a bit preoccupied, but um, then yeah, as far as I only know, it's only possible if you're using artificial inseminations, and then so that would bring up that question of whether or not that's desirable.
If
I know that that it is possible or at least there is I don't know if it's a prescription, but some guidance in the Vedas with relation to whether one wants a boy or a girl to do the timing amongst the human species, to time the conception, and so the I guess the consideration is not necessarily considered a bad thing. Mm, yeah, but I don't. I had. I don't really have any more thoughts on that. More like questions about whether whether there is any justification for it, or if it's considered demoniac, absolutely, to interfere, like you were saying. If that's considered interference, begs the question of AI altogether, also, and its legitimacy. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I can say anything more about it.
Great. So, so Harikirtan Prabhu, what you are saying, no, it is exactly the what I found by researching. I've been really trying to figure out, you see me always trying to figure out way to find a solution. So when I saw this in the Vedas, it is there and all these things, science, I said, oh, this is also science. Let me explore it. You know what I found? I talking to, as you're saying, different dairy farmers. I was talking to different dairy farmers. Actually, wanted to buy a cow from a dairy farmer, and I was asking him what does he do? How does he do it? So he explained to me he does only sex semen. I said, wow, this is great. So how do you do it? So he says 80-20, even 90-10. I said, wow, this is amazing. I mean, then I was thinking it could probably solve so many problems because it's maybe better than bringing a male calves naturally. Is, oh, we are natural, we are not disturbing, or we are bringing the male calves and then killing. So what is better? Like, what is the best of the bad bargain? AI with sex semen or male calves coming and killing? You know, so then I started probing more because I had this question how it can work because it is not a natural order Krishna hasn't created, but there is a way to do it also. So this was always weighing in my mind. I found out that it doesn't work after the cow is after 2 or 3 breeding cycles. So basically, by the time cow is 5-year-old, 6-year-old, then this AI can still keep working, but somehow this sex semen, the chances of getting it impregnated, being successful AI after 5-6 years of age reduces as like, uh, very astronomically within like because then what they have to do is to when they come in heat, the cows they come in heat, every 21 days or something, whatever, 24 for 25 days, different cows. Then they have to first of all wait if they don't get pregnant, and then all the expense to do that impregnation, so it builds up, so it is not worth it for them to do AI then anymore with 6-7. 6-7 expensive too, and keep trying like this and it doesn't work, and the cow is barren and for a long time. And he explained it to me that I don't do it. So what do you do? I sell it, meaning, you know. So I found out from others also. And then I started doing some more research. And then I found out it really there is a reason behind it that as the reproductive tract becomes larger or something, this they haven't figured this out that how the sex semen can work. So after it really that 80-20 ratio that we hear, 90-10 ratio, that works first breeding, second breeding. That's it. So what Harikirtan was saying, no, this is just like Ayurveda and allopathy. It's like that. There is a wholesome science how to, if you really want to do it, sex, like sex determination, then let us try to understand the Vedic science, which is holistic, which doesn't disturb and which can work long term, even till 14, 15 years of age when they are still breeding. But when we are using this kind of, like, I won't say, I mean, demoniac, I mean, mode of ignorance and mode of passion science, which is kind of that, then that is very limited. It is like short-term benefits. Anyway, Bharat Prabhu, you wanted to say something, please? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Nimai Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Is not well?
Dear devotees. You can hear me?
Your throat is not well, Prabhu?
What is not well?
Throat, your mucus.
So, oh no, that was just in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm fine otherwise. First thing, I'm feeling astonished by what you shared about the Ayurveda practitioner that you know, and her father figured that out and found that from the scriptures. I would find that very valuable if you could find out his name and get a little more information from him, like where in the scripture did he found it, would be a very nice reference to quote. And besides that, I have some questions. I came in a little later. So when you mention AI, I'm wondering what's the context for that? Is it just gathering data from the cow so to know when she is in heat, etc.?
Artificial insemination.
Oh, artificial insemination in that sense. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know from Nityananda Prabhu in Fiji when we were there. He was getting a tank for the semen, and then he was ordering the semen. And at that point, I was wondering, like, how much interference is that doing the artificial breeding and controlling it from our position and not just letting it in Krishna's hands. Yeah, what sex will come out, but in that context, I found it also reasonable. In Fiji, you don't have many races of cows, and if your goal is to breed the best possible breed, to get A2 cows and um, to in one sense keep the like when you're keeping what is it called, the indigenous, no, the heirloom seeds. If you keep a seed bank of vegetable seeds or so, you also need to breed them, and you want to keep the best quality. So from a perspective of a breeder, yeah, it makes sense. Also, the artificial breeding Ramananda was sharing that. Yeah, he and Jairade were questioning like that. Yeah, and that question about artificial breeding in general, if I got that correctly. Yeah, so I'm wondering also your realizations and your goals, your objectives for breeding in general. On one hand, yeah, small scale dairy, there's no harm being done to the cow, and on the other hand, what are the other objectives? A cow is a cow, okay, and how much do we want to breed the best quality, quote quotes unquote off, and yeah, how much is that playing into the game also?
So, very good, Prabhu. Thank you for such nice. Let's go to the next topic of artificial insemination and breeding, which is some of the most important discussion on for a civilization. I don't say these words lightly. I started researching this in Rajasthan in different states, and then I started figuring out this so much time, energy, expense was being spent by the kings and their administration to make sure that the right optimum breeds for that climate, that vegetation is of the highest quality, is maintained in the kingdom. Now, when one looks at it from Vaishya point of view, Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam, Krishna has given it to the Vaishyas to protect cows and other animals also. They all come under the like Krishna in Krishna book. It is described how he would go to the forest, and he had goats also. He has buffalo. He has a buffalo horn. So he was not just herding cows but other animals too. And because these have also benefits, so some people who drink that milk, and sometimes in diseases also they are told, and some people eat the goats and buffaloes, and because for lower class people it is described that you can eat those, but not the cows. So many of these and many other animals also, even pigs, donkeys, camels, elephants. Such a huge science of elephant is there, how to manage, because in in the Vedic system. and older civilizations. So horses, um, maintaining the quality of these animals was life and death for a civilization. Now, horses, elephants, camels may not be that much of a necessity, except camels, maybe I can say in some places. Elephants and horses, they become obsolete in this age. But cows, they are still, we discussing last week about the importance of keeping cows for mode of goodness, for health, for sattva guna, and for the Brahminical culture to because the brain power and the sattva guna develop without proper, and if the cows are not kept profitably, sustainably, you can't keep. There is, there was one, I often talk about this. There was one function at my parents' home. They were doing sacrifice about 10, 12, 15 years back, saying. So I was watching this Brahmana was performing sacrifice on behalf of my father. And Hare Krishna, John Prabhu. Hmm. So then at the time, it came of
Hare Krishna, Nima. Hare Krishna, everyone. Haribol.
the time came to give dakshina, part of the process when it becomes effective. This yagya, otherwise not effective, if proper dakshina is not given, donation, charity. So at the almost to the end. So the time came, he was chanting the shlokas of giving dakshina of a cow. And I was thinking, oh, my parents are supposed to give a cow now to this Brahmin. So I told like that. So he says, no, 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 no. So he took out, so we were all discussing about how do we get a cow to donate it to him. We were just joking around it. He said, no, 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 no. So he took out from his little thing a metal cow, small metal cow, and he gave it to my father. And he says, donate it to me. And he chanted the mantra that I am donating it. And then in the laugh, everyone was laughing and it got over. Then after the sacrifice was over, I was asking him, why don't you get donation of cows? He said, no, 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 I don't want cow donation. I said, why? Because who's going to maintain it? It's not, I mean, we have to feed it instead of it giving money, cow giving money. So Brahmana, they can't, if they can't financially maintain a cow, whether themselves or through a Vaishya, by giving him the the it lease or sharing of the profits, then they don't get the benefit of the pure milk, fresh milk. What is said, Ushanam Dharyam Ushanam Amritam. This is the shloka which Ayurveda Acharya quoted to me, which from Ayurveda Shala. He was 96 years old at the time, and he quoted this for my wife. And he said, Dharyam Ushanam Amritam, which we know from growing up in India, that Dharyam meaning cow milk. Dharya is cow, and Dharyam is milk from the cow. And Ushanam is warm, Amritam, nectar. The milk coming from the cow, which is just like half an hour, it remains warm. Body of the cow is warmer than ours, maybe 101 degree or something, 102 degrees. So when it comes out, it is quite warm. Um, till it remains warm, it is nectar. And we can go later in that. So that nectarian, it is full of potency, that milk. So if the Brahmana is just buying milk from somewhere else, doesn't get the full potency, whether it's developing the brain power or developing the sattva and many other, health and everything. So keeping cows is essential for Brahminical culture and for human civilization. We can't keep cows unless it is profitable. That is a given. Now, when it comes to breeding, why it is so important is that if, let's say, a bull breeds a cow, and they mate, and the cow, a baby is produced. Now, if the progeny, if the male is not so potent in terms of so many characteristics and milk production, let's say, or and health and adaptability to the region, climate, food, the forage that is there easily available, instead of feeding it, feeding extra special some diet. So if they are not acclimatized, both male and female, so the traits are passed on to the baby, and the baby would grow up not very adaptable, and hence more financially difficult to manage and to maintain. And the efficiency of food which is being given, and the land which they are going, and the care, time, energy being put, doesn't translate into the output enough with the milk and the quality of the milk. And maybe the milk and everything is good, but maybe the reproductive power is not good, or they get sick many often. And the oxen, let us say, if they are being produced, they are not of very high quality. So all of these things combine together to make finally the the financial economic, I mean, they don't remain economically sustainable. We have seen that in India all the time. They, because under this halo of, cows are holy and everything, they just leave the cows unprotected like that in the streets everywhere. So now what happens is these bulls, they are all these bulls are there unregulated. They they mate with the cows, and they produce cows babies who, when they grow up, they are eating, let even if they eat however good grass they can, they eat, they produce only 1 or 2 liters of milk the whole day long. It is like you can't even maintain anybody in that milk, whether in US or in India. The cow should produce around, at least now, 20 liters, 17 liters, 15 liters. Without that, it is not financially viable in a day. So it is extreme importance to maintain the quality of the cows. I saw, I was reading these court records, like court meaning the kingdom court, not these courts. These records 300 years back, 400 years back, these kind of records are there still in archives you can find, where how so much attention was being put, what kind of breed is being bought for all these sheep, goats, cows, camels, horses, elephants, where from, and it's so much of effort being put to purchase and identify the right breeds coming from this country and this place or this location, and like attention, time, discussion, brahmanas, research. It's like a large portion of the kingdom was, one of the big portion was maintaining these breeds of animals, the right breed. Everybody, every other male was being castrated, more or less, or at least they don't go and like they just go and start to breed and just produce. It was just not there. It was so much so that they were, people were punished if the male male of any of the species would just go and start breeding with somebody, because then the whole, like, village itself start to degrade in one's milk output or other output which are being desired from those animals, and the whole economy can go down, like crash down for that village. And then who's going to maintain all this? Because you can't, especially cows, you cannot kill. And then how do you do, what do? You have to wait for that whole generation to pass and die naturally. Until that, you, I have had this experience trying to maintain cows, 100 cows in Jaisalmer, trying to feed them, and they're giving like 1 liter or half a liter milk because everybody rejected them. Horrible. So someone saying, well, Srila Prabhupada also used milk powder, not only fresh milk of a good, I mean, of course, there's a use of a good use of a best use of a bad bargain. That is not the, uh, you know, Ideal. Uh, he's showing we can utility is the principle. That's not ideal. That's not the one we should do daily basis. Daily basis, especially children when they're growing up. So important for their overall immunity and health and the consciousness, sattvic nature to give them like fresh milk from the cow as soon as I mean mother's milk is the best and right after that, I mean, simultaneously also, slowly they start weaning from mother's milk. Then immediately this milk, warm milk of cow, fresh cow milk should be given. It's imperative. So what happens now is in let's say we are trying to develop in our farms, develop cows like dairy. Now uh, we get one cow after one or two cycles of breeding, meaning we call them breeding, but they are like impregnating. The male is impregnating, let's say, one cow. She produces one female. Now he we can't use him to produce to his daughter. So you get one other cow, you impregnate that cow, and then you can't use it to produce. It's inbreeding. So now what do you do? What used to happen before in the villages in India, and I'm sure I haven't researched around in the West, but in India I know, and I did it also in the village. They used to have each village, let's say, has one excellent male um, breeding bull. For a couple of years, he's there. 2 3 years till the babies are his daughters are getting older. Then they will rotate it out to another village nearby and take their bull. And likewise, it keeps going so that there is enough diversity, there is no inbreeding going on, and this and the breed can be maintained well too. Now, here, now in the West, I was trying to first I was wanting to do this. And then I realized, this is impossible to do it in this atmosphere. We have to come up to a certain number of herds by different people maintained well, not that, oh, just they are different breed. So, I mean, different flock of herd of cows, so I can get that bull. No, they have to be maintained well too, because those traits start coming into the babies if they are not maintained well. So, one needs to have how the cow breeding and the bull, like the cow and bull mating will work really well is when there are four, five, six herds of well-maintained herds of farmers nearby each other. Nearby meaning because you have to exchange. I mean, 1 or 2 hours is one thing, but you have to keep exchanging and like rotating like every couple of years, 3 years. And sometimes you have a different breed, you get more different cows. You can, so those who are not bred earlier with that oxen, so you kind of get that oxen for a couple of months. So you need little bit like in a region, 1 or 2 hour like that because then the other farm may want the oxen back again for because it's not like whenever we want we can bring. It depends on when the cows are coming in heat, so you have to keep exchange, like rotate the bulls around. So, and each one of them have to have the place where to keep the bull because bull is, little aggressive. He's when he smells the cow, that is his function. So he has to. So that facility needs to be there too. So with each farm, because you can't. Every farm has to have that facility and wet situation where something happens to this expensive bull, they can take care and so on and so forth. So there's an ecosystem around which this natural breeding, which is the way Krishna is set up, the Lord is set up, can be practiced well in the West to be effective, to be ethical, and to produce the desired sustainable results. Otherwise, what we have to do, the main purpose is the right breeding, the right quality. If we can't do the ideal manner now, then we have to choose some aspect or some way, even if it is demoniac, let's say, to get to that stage where we can have different breeds of cows, different herds of cows with different bulls, very excellent bulls all around, so that then can be rotated, five, six like this can be rotated. So that's why artificial insemination for the time being has to be accepted. There is, I don't know how it is possible to do without it. A proper, financially viable, healthy herd of of cows, um, in of even one breed. What to speak of different breeds, and we'll talk about that. How to maintain, why different breeds are required many times to maintain. For
That's and that's mainly because you can determine the sex, right?
determine the sex? I don't understand the question in the context, Prabhu.
You can make sure it's going to be a cow, not a bull, with artificial insemination, right? Or not?
We discussed that before you came in, and we figured out that, I mean, I don't know if you were there. You also went with me, with us, Vinay and us, to this nearby farm. You didn't, you know. So we found that after two or three breeding, they can't do artificial insemination with sex semen anymore. Doesn't work. So, you can't do it. So, Bharat Prabhu, those are my thoughts. I would like to hear from Ramananda Prabhu and Hari Kirtan Prabhu and you and others. What do you all think about this explanation of why artificial insemination is kind of necessity now?
Prabhu, if I may, I agree with you, practically speaking, and after having had a few years of taking care of cows, um, the reality sets in that we always know that we're subsidizing it, and then I always wonder if my life depended on this, what would happen, you know? Um, and the reality of it needing to be economically viable is just unavoidable, because you wonder what it can only be subsidized for so long, and sometimes you just have to resort to certain things that make it so that it may not be ideal, but at least it's getting done. And the alternative is just that they just don't get protected if we hold fast to certain ideals. But it's interesting to see how much there were these considerations in Vedic times, because we tend to associate everything that the modern dairy industry is doing as completely demonic. But it's very interesting to see how there might be some of that consideration even in Vedic times, and then just really figure out where are the red lines of what we will absolutely not do. And obviously that would come into the ethical dairy protocol of never killing them or never selling them, and allowing the baby to be with the mother for so long, etc. But yeah, it's a one has to, if you actually want to do it and sustain it, some of these considerations that have to be considered have to be made. Anyway, thank you for articulating your thoughts on it so well. And I can't say I don't agree with anything that you said.
Have you done AI?
Yes, we when we bought our first 2 cows, they were supposed to be pregnant. When we got them, one was not. So we ended up having to do insemination for the second one because it turned out she wasn't pregnant. We didn't consider the gendered semen at that time, and then we did try over the course of the years to impregnate a couple of them, but I guess just like the limitations on gendered semen, when the heifers become a little too old, the modern vets understand that there's a window of opportunity to be successful in getting them pregnant, and if they're too old before they get pregnant for the first time, that won't even work. You know, whether it's male or female, they won't just the chances of them getting pregnant drop dramatically. So we have 2 heifers that were born on our farm 7 and 8 years ago, and they cannot get pregnant.
Through AI or through
Yeah,
direct? Exactly.
through AI. So they do suggest sometimes. They say, well, if it's not working through AI, maybe you can bring them in with, maybe you can bring a bull over, or maybe you can bring them to a bull, and maybe that would work because there would be maybe more frequency in the insemination. But it was never viable for us. We could never do it. To the logistics of bringing a bull, and we don't have a place for the bull, or bringing our cow somewhere else. So we always opted to do the AI, and it never worked for the heifers. I can't remember how many times we did it. It wasn't very often, but
Mhm.
but now the most recent one we did on the brown Swiss that we had bought one brown Swiss from a dairy farm, and we did inseminate her. I'm not sure. I have to ask Jairante, but it might have been gendered semen actually, and it turned out that she did give birth to a girl. Um, but anyway, I can double check and let you know.
Mhm.
But that was successful.
Hari Kirtan Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. I am curious because you were just talking about this system in the village of maintaining a breeding bull and then shifting this bull between the villages or the
Birds,
to
yeah.
breed in a healthy way, so you don't end up with problematic inbreeding and like this. I don't know. And I'm curious. That is quite the infrastructure that is necessary for that.
Mm.
With our modern technology and the way society is set up, that to try and do anything related to that would seem to be a over endeavor, considering the technology that we have. We can still maintain a healthy herd. What would be the reason for going through the effort to establish something like that?
Very important, Prabhu, because it is a rape of the cow in a sense, no?
Hmm.
Artificial insemination. It's what one it's like an artificially, like how would a female feel like that, how when
Yeah. Uh,
IHF is done and other things, it is it's not natural, no? And the cow wants a male, no, a bull. They are looking
right.
for, so they don't get that pleasure. And I don't know how that works within the karma part,
Mm-hmm.
but they
But
may
I'm
take further
I'm I'm
to.
curious, looking at this, and I'm looking at, like, I think that this question comes up for a lot of things when we're looking at what to establish and what not to establish in, and what to work for and work towards and what not to work towards in our questions about um, village culture or establishment, or whatever it is, whatever endeavor we are doing. And so I'm curious, like, with the bulls, what will the bulls be engaged in? What will they be doing? Because there will be bulls. So will they only be used for the purpose of being a breeding bull, or will they have other engagement? I think that there
As
are so many facets to the question of ethical dairy that I'm curious about.
exactly.
'Cause
So,
it's very difficult to convince anyone to use the bulls for work when we can do that work with machines so much easier. And especially with the pressures of what needs to be produced, a farmer is very reluctant to use a bull to cultivate the fields when they have to, in order for the farm to be profitable, they have to have the ability to cultivate a certain number of acreage. It's not, it's such a difficult equation. And I'm curious how that would be addressed, and so.
so it's wonderful that somehow our discussion is progressing the way I wanted it to progress. Krishna's arrangement. I mean, Balram, I'm sure, I'm very certain that Shri Balramji wants us to do something about. Uh, so, one of the reasons why we need bulls also breeding rather than only AI all the time is not just is artificial and it's kind of rape and it's painful and it doesn't work and expensive. No, it's artificially being done just for the time being to develop to the, but also as
Oh.
the cows become older, AI doesn't work also, just like Prabhu is saying. And after, so it is working because in the normal dairies, they send to slaughter out within their 6, 7 maximum age. So it works, but after 10, 12 years of age, it is almost impossible to do AI. And it's just like that. It doesn't work so much. I don't know why. Maybe the technology they didn't even try to research because there is no cow to research like that in the dairies. No need. So I don't know how it is, but that's how people tell me. We have not done that to older cows. So I cannot say. So coming to the bulls and the breeding and all these things. So the first question to now discuss is a controversial issue. Like all of these are controversial among the purists who probably have not tried to do the same thing in the West, I would think. Mostly they're purists from the Vedic point of view, the compassionate point of view, they're really feeling for the cows and the oxen and bulls and everything. And so they don't like that cows are being artificially inseminated. They don't like that the cows are not, I mean, they are not living with the bulls all the time. And that they are even bred selectively. They should be left on their own, just like Krishna is described in the Bhagavatam, was herding cows, bulls also were there with him. So that's how the argument they give. And what we are discussing is the Western considerations because of which that same thing is impossible to do. I showed all these things, and Ramananda Prabhu explained why it is so difficult to do at this stage. Even with how much we can try, it is impossible because we need all these reasons. So, but we should know that there is a reason why they are saying so is because of all these problems which are there in AI and breeding like this and like that. Now, as far as this issue is also controversial, whether we should castrate. So, when a bull is castrated, it is called an ox or a bullock or a steer in US. So, this is a controversial whether they should be castrated or not. And I have had many good discussion from very well-meaning devotees, really well-meaning, very compassionate, very kind, very much wanting to serve Srila Prabhupada on this topic. And I want to hear any other devotees, do they have any thoughts on it? Have they heard back and forth different discussions? What does Bhagavatam say? What does Srila Prabhupada say? Anything on this topic? Should we castrate the bulls or not at all?
Prabhu, I can't cite any specific reference, but I do know that we castrated our bulls at the appropriate time. There was never. It was a pretty quick decision because we understood our limitations, and we knew that if we were to have any chance with our limited resources to maintain our herd right until death, that we could not afford to have an uncontrolled population growth. And so we accepted the principle pretty quickly that we would just have them castrated. We did it the most humane way possible with proper sedation and everything. And that was done. I think it was at around 3 months or so. It was a fairly non-traumatic experience, at least externally. And I think at the time we did attempt to reference Srila Prabhupada, and I believe it's been a while that we did find a reference where Srila Prabhupada had given a practical instruction to just you can simply castrate it, and he wasn't. I think the mood was, as a matter of necessity, just go ahead and do it because we're not, maybe I don't know what the circumstances were at the time, but not equipped or not trained just yet. So if we need to do that, we can do that as a matter of concession. For us, having the bulls, what we call them, bulls. I don't know. As a matter of interest, you mentioned when the bull is castrated, they're called an ox. We've heard that when a bull is castrated, they're called steer, as long as they're being sort of trained in work, and then once they've actually attained a particular capability of doing work, then they're given the title ox. That it's not necessarily a title that is just given without any actual qualification, kind of like a kshatriya. They're only a kshatriya if they actually have attained the qualities. So I've always related to the word ox in that way, that they're steer until they're actually working oxen. They can practically do certain things. But that's just a side note. We have our two bulls, and well, they're not bulls, so they're castrated, so they would be steers / oxen, because they do some work. But we've gotten a very close up look at what it means to maintain oxen and their behavior as compared to the cows, and we can just imagine what it would be like if they were not castrated, because even being castrated, they're quite aggressive, and they're very large, and they can cause a lot of trouble. They are the ones that are always looking at ways to break out and break the fences and wreak havoc on neighboring properties. We had this past spring, I believe, Balaram broke out of one gate, and he ate and destroyed 8 nicely planted trees on a neighboring property. And my neighbor sent me the bill of $2,000 to replace them. And that's like, that's like five or 4 or 5 months of revenue from the cow's milk, and it can really put us backwards. So we castrate, and they still cause a lot of trouble because we just, we don't have proper installations, I guess. But it's a serious consideration, and it can be a matter of life and death. We have the fortune of being able to subsidize everything we're doing on our own, so we can tolerate that kind of thing. But if it was truly one's livelihood, it could be very devastating. So we have another bull now, and we will castrate him too, because we haven't attained that ability to maintain a bull yet. The bull that we have now, we weren't supposed to have. We had bought a cow from a local dairy, and we had understood that that she was not pregnant, and that it turned out that she was pregnant. And I think they might have been having a hard time getting her inseminated artificially. So they may have. Sometimes it helps. It makes it easier for them to become pregnant if they're bred with certain breeds. So the cow that we got was bred with a Black Angus, as it turns out. I think to ensure pregnancy, and so and then it turned out that she was pregnant. So we have a little Black Angus bull now named Shyam, and we will be castrating him again. It's a very practical consideration. We don't necessarily like it, but like you said, there needs to be a certain critical mass in order to maintain certain systems. But if we're just sort of a lonely homestead with nobody else to work with, then we have to resort to some of these means just to be able to maintain it.
Hari Kirtan Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hari Kirtan Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
Can you hear me? Especially me. I think they can.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Hari Krishna.
Okay.
Oh, my wife wanted to say something here.
Yes.
Go ahead and speak.
Okay. I wanted to ask what the Hindi word for ox or steer is, in case it's similar to the Sanskrit word, so I can see if I can look for references and have it.
Oh, that's very interesting. Let us discuss that. So, bulls or oxen? What's in a name? This is by Shyama Sundar Prabhu. I don't know who wrote it, but it looks very. Maybe somebody else can tell. Somebody knows him, Shyama Sundar Das.
Oh,
I've heard of a Shamsundar that is an astrologer. This might be the
Oh.
same
Is
one.
this the Shamasundar from England?
Should
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
my Pandit Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Shamasundar Prabhu, we recently went to New Vrindavan and we met one devotee there named Badarayani Prabhu. And he is working with oxen there. Because I did a little bit of a tour, in the eastern USA of all the farms that there are, and to meet anybody working with oxen to get tips on how to progress in our efforts. And Badarayani Prabhu met me there at the milking station in the morning, and he put me on to this Oxwork WhatsApp group that is organized by Shyamasundar Prabhu, who was the Goshala manager at Bhaktivedanta Manor, I think, for many years.
I see.
And he's somewhat of the he seems to be somewhat of the elder reference in oxen training, and he's insisting that we all move on to having nose rings installed in the oxen to facilitate the ox training from behind, as opposed to the walking from the side method.
Yeah.
As a very practical matter of consideration, again in the same vein or same line of thinking, it's either, if we don't make the job easier and practical and able to, if we don't allow ourselves certain facilities to be able to actually do the work properly, it just won't get done. We won't progress. We won't become a good example. And so yeah, that's what I know about him. And he wrote a book. He wrote a couple of books. He sent me one copy, I think. Oh no, he sent me some pages from the book, and I asked him who wrote this book, Prabhu, and he said, well, I did. And so he's written a couple of books about it.
Very nice. So,
And so in this working group, or this WhatsApp group, there's all kinds of posts from all the devotees across Europe and the world that are working with Oxen, and so they share their progress and tips and tricks and stuff like that.
so all obeisances to this wonderful devotee. He has written an article, and I was going through this, and I was looking what is the difference, and I couldn't find, and then he pointed it out that the name for bull is Vrisha, Neela Mataji, is Vrisha, and for oxen or bullock, it is two or three different names are described. Gobi, Shakate, Chatupada, different like so. And he gives quotations from the Bhagavatam in different places. In 117.1, described this is used in regards to a bull as a personality of religion. It denotes virility, following an address by Indra. And the seven bulls which were brought under the control by Krishna were called Vrisha also in 10:58:43. Then the bulls that Krishna herded with the cows were also called Vrisha, which makes sense if you want to, he is writing, want to control your bulls, you graze them where you want and with who you want. If bulls are just wandering everywhere, where is the need to mention they are being herded along with the cows? To me, this indicates a conscious practice to ensure the cows you want are being impregnated. We know there is herd segregation because the calves have three knotted faces. Very young remain in the village. Suckling calves are grazed away from their mothers so they don't drink all the milk. The older calves or last year calves are grazed in another place away from their mothers so they don't drink all the milk. So I've seen all of this happen in Jaisalmer village where we were. My wife was taking the younger calves out. The babies were always in the village, and the older calves, they were castrated and they were going with the cows. Krishna was playing at bullfighting with his childhood friends. There also Vrisha is mentioned. And he says that this also makes sense as although we know oxen also fight to work out their place, bulls have a much more determined interest in fighting because they want breeding access to the cows. And then when Uddhava entered Vrindavan, he witnessed bulls. They are also called Vrisha. They were also fighting due to sexual arousement due to the cows on heat. So that is in 10:46:14. And when bulls are described as performing some type of labor, other names are used, such as Gobi to describe they are carrying a load. That is in 10:52:6. Now, this is where I wanted to show you Shakat at 10:11:35. Yeah, or 33. So this is the seventh chapter of 10th canto, where, sorry, 11th chapter of the 10th canto, where all the Upananda and all the Gopas, they said, no, being in Gokul is very dangerous for Krishna. Let us go move to Vrindavan. So immediately they put all their belongings all on bullock carts. See this anashu on the bullock carts, whatever belongings they had, keeping all the old men, cow, village, women, children, and household paraphernalia on the bullock carts, and keeping all the cows in front. The cowherd men picked up their bows and arrows with great care and sounded bugles made of horn. This is buffalo horn. O King Parikshit, in this way, with bugles vibrating all around, the cowherd men, accompanied by their priests, began the journey. And then here, the next was the cowherd women riding on the bullock carts. And this bullock cart, Rudha Ratha, while riding on the bullock carts. Here, Rudha is mentioned for bullock. And then the next verse here, Shakatam on one bullock cart. Thus, hearing about the pastimes of Krishna and Balram with great pleasure, Mother Yashoda and Roni Devi, so as not to be separated from Krishna and Balram for even a moment, got up with them on one bullock cart. In this situation, they all looked very beautiful. And the next verse, 35, is it's Shakate by the bullock carts. In this way, they entered Vrindavan, where it is always pleasing to live in all seasons. They made a temporary place to inhabit by placing their bullock carts around them in the shape of half moon. So this bullock. The exact translation in what is it? Collier Dictionary is Collins Dictionary. It is oxen. Bullock is young bull that has been castrated. Srila Prabhupada translated it like that. And the verse doesn't say Vrisha, which means bull. So it's just another thing what Prabhu is saying is just backing it up. Chatupada, four-legged and like that. So this is 11.6.14 is another reference uses the word gavaha, that a bullock is brought under control by having its nose strung with a rope. His summary, Prabhu's summary, the Sanskrit word for a fully potent bull is generally Vrisha, whereas words describing a working bull, which we generally call an ox or a bullock, are different. This indicates to me there was a distinction. Okay. Okay, Neela Mataji.
Wait. Can you hear you?
Oh, can anyone hear me?
Now can you?
Oh, sorry.
Microphone's on.
Thank you. I've written Rudha and Gavaha, and also I can see Prabhupada's translation that they are using
Yeah.
bullock steers, oxen in Gokul. Basically, Nanda Maharaj is using them. According to my understanding, Shakata just means cart, like Shakatasura. So I've written down Rudha and Gava as different from Vrisha. And yeah, those were the words I was looking for. I found one other one that started with A, like Ahwa, or something like that. I was wondering if you could bring me back to that one.
One second. Ahwa,
The first mention.
Rudha was one.
Yeah, but the first one was sounded like Ahwa.
Bullock.
That's my little bull. I guess it's okay.
29th was the Shakta is, as you're saying rightly, it is cart.
Yeah.
Also, when they say, yeah, you're correct. It is cart.
Okay. All right. I will look into those.
Rudha Chada, all the resume having been kept on the cards.
Maybe
So it
Rudha
could also
also.
be cards. Or they are basically, and then
Anahshu, that's the one. Anaha.
okay. Nashu on the bullet card.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But there is one at 10, 11, and 30s.
Yeah, that's the story of moving. That story just really amazes me because in the morning they decided to move and in the afternoon they were moving. And I just cannot imagine that kind of freedom. That very same day they moved. have families and herds of cows and so many possessions that you have to have when you keep cows, and somehow they were able to move on the very same day.
It's like they were so concerned about, first of all, about Krishna's health and safety, and which was a big impetus for them to suddenly move. Why put him in more danger? Second was the higher taste. No, Vrindavan is so beautiful. Let us, oh, Vrindavan, like that. Govardhan is there at that time. I don't know how. So they were pulled there excitedly. But I don't know how they managed it. It's amazing. One day.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Mata, for bringing such a nice thing up. Okay, so bullock definitely means castrated. Um, so I took what happens when you castrate? So this Prabhu was asking this question. At what age and everything. The right age, I talked to the vet, he says 1 month, 1.5 month. That by that you should castrate. And we have images of castration, meaning cut the sack out, like that they do in ranches, cattle ranches, quite violent sometimes. But that is not the way. The Vedic way is very easy. It's just, I've seen it happen. Just tie a little, 1.5 month old, just tie a little string, and that's it. The blood flow is cramped, and that's it. It just dries up. And here I was talking to the vet. She says that exactly. You just tie the rubber band. And that's what the Bhima was, I think, 1 month old or 2 months old. And we did that, and it was just easy. No, nothing happened. Um, you know, and so let me show you what happens when.
So, so Prabhu, this is non-surgical procedure then?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see the photo of, so me, on the right, they are both brown Swiss breed. On the right,
Prabhu, before you continue, may I share just for the
yeah,
sake of information, how when I witnessed the castration that we had, how it was done. When they were sedated, there was a small incision, and the testicle was spun sort of like a light bulb on the one singular vein, and it was just twisted until um, until two things happened simultaneously. The vein sort of broke off, and at the same time the opening was closed. So a very small incision, and then they were spun until the vein was just sort of fell off naturally. You know how if you bend like a wire enough times, it just kind of snaps off like that. But in this case, it was just spun. So that's a different method that they employ. I
yeah.
don't know if that's more or less humane,
One
but
grows
it did
older.
require a small incision.
As one grows older, that becomes more of a necessity, because when they are young, one can do it with non-surgical way and painless way. But as one grows older, then all these things come under the point that then you have to sedate them because it's painful, and then gouge them and make sure it doesn't infect, and all these things happen.
So the method you used didn't require any sedation or anything, just simply an elastic band.
Doesn't even like nothing, just just walking around.
We'll have to consider that for next time.
But 1.5 month old like that.
Okay.
That's it. And after that, gradually, 3 months, it just grows so fast. No? Then you need more and more of these invasive methods. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Sorry to interrupt.
Of course, bro. So these are two oxen, but they were castrated at different times of at different ages. So on the right is Bhima, on the left is Karna. One can kind of, even though they are at different places on the photo, but you can see kind of difference in the heights. Bhima was castrated around 1 month old, 1.5 month old. And this Karna on the left, he was castrated when he was 3 year old. Somehow we couldn't, because he came when he was already grown up, like 3 months or something. And we tried to castrate using the rubber band and all, it didn't work. And it just grew, and it was just, we couldn't make ourselves do it. And he was separated from the cows, so we didn't feel the need. And also I wanted to see what happens as a bull. He was also weak, so I didn't want to too much do it, let him develop, get his all testosterone in. And then he developed quite big, so it took us a long time, like we had to sedate and get the vet, and because he was getting all unruly. But you can see the body structure too. It's the same breed. He's shorter, more stout, shoulders are not so pronounced. And this Bhima, who was 1 year old, his whole energy or whatever is went into building up the stature. So it is like, that's another point to show how this is designed by the Lord like this, that for pulling and for physical activity, this is just made for it. The body, once castration is done, the body develops like that. So that is another consideration. And of course, as Prabhu was saying, that agitation, you can't, the reason why one is castrating is also because if because the bulls, they, when they smell cows, we can't, but even the bulls can smell the cows in the air. There is a smell which they can, by the wind it comes, and they get really agitated. Even the oxen can get agitated. They do get agitated, but not as much as the bull. Bull can just break everything around, so agitated, and kill people all around. There's blind with agitation and rage. And those were the bulls which were there with Krishna, which he controlled all 7 of them at the same time. They're really, really, really tough bulls. Bullfighting they do, no? So this is those bulls get very agitated sexually. So around the children you can't, and families, and when using bullock carts and all, you cannot have them become agitated like that, uncontrolled. They can't even, they don't know how to control themselves then, however much training has been given. Only Krishna could do, that's why it was like a test to them, test to him. So that is another reason why it is designed by the Lord. Um, and when devotees were saying that no, we can keep them enclosed, we don't need to give them pain and all these things. But the point is, because this, like this one, let me read this letter. Back to Godhead in 84. While reading, somebody wrote a letter. While reading your recent article dealing with cows, I was shocked and hurt to learn that ISKCON castrates their bulls. I feel that this is a horrible thing to do and also unnecessary. Somehow it is hard for me to see how Krishna could sanction this since he loves cows. I wish you could explain why you feel it is so necessary to mutilate the bulls in this manner. Surely it must be extremely painful both during the castration itself and afterwards, when the bull has to live with the fact that it can no longer engage in the natural function of reproduction. Would it be right for us to castrate humans? Certainly, bulls have feelings too. I hope to see this letter in your reply in a future issue of BTG. Somewhere in Massachusetts, somebody wrote. And they give all these same reasons. Very well written. all these reasons what we just discussed. So this is one of the any discussion on this topic about castration, not castration, and when
Yes,
to.
Prabhu. I'm this that kind of brings me back to the earlier point that I brought up, and that is what would we what I guess what are we expecting the bulls to do? Are we expecting just that they will live? Like, oh, it is better that they have a field that they can live safely in. They will not be slaughtered. They will not, they are born and this is it. They just have by themselves, no cows, and they just live like that. Is that compassionate, or is that also such suffering that they have no purpose in life? They have no cows. They have no cows. So we've removed everything from them so that we don't castrate them, right? Because if we let them mix with the cows, then we have uncontrolled breeding, and then we have a herd we cannot logistically, like financially, becomes a problem. And also, we can't have it around people because of they have, so much.
Cannot hear you well, Prabhu.
Oh, I have the I I have the headphone that is that that you can talk with. Darling, you should tell them about
So
non-program.
I'm curious, like I guess I'll start over. Just that, what is the expectation? Are we expecting that the bulls should be just kept in a field, by themselves, where they like that is the what they're looking forward to in life? They have no purpose, no engagement. We don't castrate them, so we can't work with them so well because they're problematic to work with, and they become aggressive and like that. Or there's the risk of them impregnating the cows also becomes then the herd is now unmanageable. So is that more compassionate to set them aside like that and have them live just like that? If they're free and they're not interfered with, but they don't have, we've removed any cows from them, we've removed any interaction and any engagement. So it's like we have to weigh the different aspects of it, and that's kind of what I don't have an answer, but I do see a question. I see it, I see a this as a puzzle where you can't have everything. I don't think that it's possible that you can have all of the aspects where you keep the bulls and you still work with them and you have a regulated herd. And I think that, and I don't know, maybe it is possible. I know one devotee here in North Carolina, that is what he's trying to do. And his success has been very limited. So I know Srila Prabhupada has described in several places that the bulls or the oxen, the bulls, they really enjoy working. They enjoy being engaged in working. They have these strong bodies and they like to use them. So, to leave them unengaged, I know some people will criticize them and say, "Oh, that you're forcing them to work. This is, this is cruelty. They should not be made to work."
Can I say something as well?
People like to work. If you have unengaged people, they lose a thirst for life if they have nothing, no purpose, and it's the same with bulls and oxen. We want something to do. We want to have something that feels important that we're engaged in. So I think that's an interesting point. What would be the purpose of the bulls in an ethical dairy or an ethical cow herd? How would you what will they do?
I want to say something as well.
Oh, my wife has something to input as well. Go ahead, you can hear from here. Stand close.
Well, I always bristle a little. I always feel a little annoyed when people make too much comparison between cows and humans. I wouldn't want to be kept in a field. And they're just different animals. I mean, sometimes I've seen people get upset when a cow is herded with a stick. But Krishna holds a herding stick, and their skin is really tough. They they don't feel so much pain if they get a little tap with a stick, like a human body. We're tiny, delicate, frail things compared to them, and we have our bodies are just completely different. We can't make the same comparisons. Like, oh, would you castrate people? Just and actually, people were also castrated ancient times a lot more commonly for different purposes. And so I don't like that comparison as an excuse, as an argument for whether or not this is something cruel.
If I could add to that from the little bit of experience that I have, when Bima was a baby, we took him up to this girl who was a professional trainer way up in Connecticut. And he stayed up there for, I think it was 2 weeks or a month. What was it?
Yeah.
Bima, you remember how long it was?
A month.
Anyway, when I went back up there, this girl had the bull trained impeccably well. I mean, she could walk beside him. He would pace with her steps. If she turned, he would turn. If she backed up, he would back up. And the whole thing became a very gentle dance. Like, she had a little stick, but she would just tap, like not strike, tap the foot of what she wanted him to do. And he just would completely listen to that command. I think a lot of what we're talking about really comes down to proper training. If you train the bull from early on the right way, in a loving way, it just needs to learn how to understand the instructions. There's no cruelty. There's no having to hit the bull hard or nothing. Nothing. I witnessed it. There's actually videos I took videos when I went up to pick up the bull. I believe they're on YouTube. And you could see the results of that training because, she showed me how to continue this training, what she did, what the bull learned and how to take care of it from then on. And she goes through all the paces and you can clearly see exactly what I'm talking about in the video. Yeah. But I think that's the real key here is it just comes down to training. And if you train them right, you can hook them up and you can let them plow the fields. They'll do everything you want. And pretty effortlessly. Okay, that's what I have.
Thank
From the
you.
little bit of experience I have, that's all I have to offer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Harikirtan bro. So exactly. So this has been if I would say this is my biggest question mark and my biggest service, like my core service, which I want to see happen is this, how to figure out, because of this, for years and years, I couldn't figure out what to do. I was trying so many ways just in the planning stage, how to make it successful, the Oxen, because without that, almost 50% we discussed all these difficulties of having so many oxen or bulls or oxen male calves produced in a cow dairy situation or a farm homestead situation, and for Vaishnavas is just unmanageable. And so how does the whole Brahminical culture, I mean, this is a whole bottleneck. I mean, from and like intellectually we think of bottleneck, but it is such a painful thing for, just like you said, there's no work or they're being killed, both no purpose, and both ways it is painful thing for them. And every day I would see Bhima in front of my window. Every day I would wake up and I would get more and more and more and more motivated to do something about it. Years and years went by, and I kept working on it. So many years, I've been thinking how to do it, what to do, and hopefully Krishna has given some intelligence now. I feel like a ray of hope now, what to do, and it is like this. So I calculated. So in a age, in the full age, let's say the cow is a normal cow, and she produces from, let's say, 3-year-old, she first delivers a baby. Sometimes they produce at 2 year, and so I'm not considering as 3 year to, let's say, 15 or 16 years of age. She's producing a normal. It can go a little more or a little less, whatever. So around 12 or 13 years is her normal reproductive age. 2 or 3 times she will not do, or we will not impregnate her. So let's say she has 10 babies. I mean, that's really optimum, but let us plan for that 10 babies and for a cow. I planned that there will be 5 male calves in every cow. Out of those 5, so every cow I took, there are 5 male calves, and I have to plan for 5 male cows for a running dairy, a ethical dairy. Not that these normal dairies, they kill cows every 2 3 years, so 4 5 years age, so there is no consideration there. So in an ethical dairy concept, a model, 5 male cows would be produced average in a normal cow. Out of them, I started to see that maybe 3 could become ox. Let's say like bull is very rare, because only the best quality, because they're bred. And of course, if we can breed them well and good quality, we can spread the bulls around. There is enough market for that. But that I'm not even considering, because every ethical dairy may not be able to have trained perfect breeding bulls, because they are very rare, and then be spread around. So everybody has to really maintain their diet, the lineage well, and the maintenance well. And so it's not so easy to breed for high class breeding bulls by every dairy. So I'm not considering that in the model. So let's say there are 5 calves. 3 calves may be able to be trained to become a good oxen, like very well trained oxen, who can then be done something with, which we will come to. 2 of them may not be able to be trained because they're sickly or something, and they're not of the good temperament and other thing. So I've considered them to be part of the same age group, same herd, which is going to because the mom is producing milk, 10% is coming to the cow, and we are saving for them in the ethical dairy concept. So those mom making sure her, let's say, not productive children, how moms and parents do that if the children are autistic, sometimes they are not able to be independent, or they have some disability, or some other issues by which they are not able to go out in the world and work, then they still live with the parents, and they're taken care of. A proper responsible parents would do that. So that's how I thought those I mean, it's our duty to really make sure the temperament and breeding and everything is good, so that the temperament, everything is good, training is good. But I'm considering even 2, let's say, male calves are not able to be trained. They remain with the older calves, and they go with the cow when she is older. She goes to her place, so they also go, or maybe even earlier, to those retirement places. We'll talk about what they can do there in a bit. So now the 3 calves, let's say, who have been able to be trained well, we need to we need to train them well, like John Prabhu was saying, and then make them into ox trains. Now, ox train meaning starts with one. Of course, one ox can also ox can also pull. 2 is better. They work better. They are like any living being. They like company, and they get more energy and more enthusiasm by that. But 2 4 6, I wanted to show you some photos of in the US. This is like 150 years back or 100 years back. Look at this ox train. 1 2 3 4 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 oxen. They are pulling. See, all the whole western part of the US, it was settled because the railway lines were put, and these railways, they were the rail trails, they were all put using these ox trains. They're so heavy. And the main thing is, one guy is there who could manage this, maybe two people. That's where it becomes important. Like in India, we have two bulls only, two oxen. But for two oxen, one person, if he's engaged, then you see how many man hours and the money and everything, the minimum cost, and there is so tough to manage economically. If one can figure out a way by which this whole 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 can be put on a train, then it starts becoming financially viable. This is another one. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. 12 of them. I don't know if it's in, it doesn't look like US, some other country, maybe South America or someplace. But this is also there. But that was the previous one, was the US one. So I've seen that happen. So now that is the first thing to do, is to train them such that they can work in a team, train if possible, because then it becomes financially viable. But the underlying factor is this, that globally the draft animals are still being used in huge quantities, much more than what we know. In 2024, 400 million draft animals worldwide are being used. 52% of the developing world farmland they are cultivating. 26% use only hand tools. I mean, what we see in the developed world is only like this, or only tractor and like this, what we are looking at. But in other parts of the world, they are still reliant on draft animals. And I'll give you the reasons why. Let's say it's upcountry, meaning it's mountainous. You can't get a tractor really well. Of course, they have built these smaller tractors in Italy, I know, Alpine region. They built these things, but they are so specialized, and they are tough to go in the terrain. And especially if it is raining or slippery, and it just fails the technology. And but especially oxen, they and donkeys and horses, they are very secure. They can walk. So all those places, I have myself seen oxen being used. Then rice fields, let's say all over Southeast Asia. Rice fields, generally, because so much weeds also come up with the rice, it's grass. So they generally have, they water soak these fields so that the weeds don't come up, and only the rice plant will come up. There, if they need to do some cultivation or taking out something or planting something or moving some heavy thing, they can't take any tractor or anything in those rice fields. It's just wet. And so that's where they use donkeys or oxen and horses or other animals. I don't know which other animals, but that's rice fields and these hilly regions. Also in subsistence farmers. I've seen in India, in Jaisalmer, we were there, and I was asking some farmers, why you don't keep tractor? Finally, I figured out why not. Because it is so small that it doesn't even make sense for them to get a tractor and maintain and manage and all these things. It's just impossible financially. And because the oxen can just do 1 acre one day, they can do, and that's it. That's all is there, the cultivation. 1 acre can produce a lot for the family. So they don't need. They're not trying to sell it somewhere else. The produce from their subsistence farmer. They're just using it for themselves, and just a little bit of bartering. So that's a large population is like that all over the world. They are on subsistence farmers, like huge number of population. Then the fourth is also the tractor parts, dealerships, the service things, diesel, all these, so many places are just not there. Like so many places in Africa, in India has no parts. And just you need like ecosystem around which the tractor can survive. We know even in the US, our tractor dealer 1 hour away. It's so tough to, I mean, 1 hour we are thinking, oh, it's very tough. But in Africa, many days you have to travel to find some place. Some places are like that. I know personally, people told me that we can't use tractor because only in those cities nearby there are tractors, but in our villages, we can't. So, and they don't know many times how to use draft animal. They're using hand tools and they're very, very, very inefficient. And that's why there is so much of hunger and everything in Africa. And so many organizations, government, UN, non-profits, they're working to propagate draft animals there. Some of them bring draft animals to and donate it to them to and train them. So that's where I started thinking, why don't we train the draft animals, nicely trained in twos, single twos, fours, six, like that, and whoever wants, we work through these agencies throughout the world, give them these animals. Even if somebody donate, like there are many philanthropy organizations all over US, if we put this all across, that we are going to be able to use, we are trying to create an ethical dairy model, whole of Northeast. The only way it can work is if we training these oxen, and these people, they need these oxen too. So we are, if you can match, some people can subsidize it, sponsor it, or some way to make it financially viable for those people I mean, when a steer is sold, it doesn't get too much money. It's like 1,500 or something like this. It's not like a huge amount. And a trained oxen can fetch more than that. Even in India, you can fetch more than that. What to speak of from the US, if we are sending it to an African country, if we can ask some donation, it's not much. Instead of being, there are many people. So that's what one of the reasons. That's one of the main way I'm thinking we should explore this and set it up such that a structured ecosystem structure is formed for whoever wants to do ethical dairying. Yes, Hari Kirtan Prabhu.
I I understand what you're saying, but I can't help but think that the training the oxen or the bulls into pairs or teams, and then either giving or selling them to these areas where they will be useful in that way. We still know that at some point these oxen or bulls will be killed. You know, that
Yeah.
is inevitable. And so, and you cannot get any kind of guarantee that they will not.
Yeah.
And so I hesitate to see this as a viable solution. I guess what I see though is that in our modern country, with our
Prabhu, I'm not able to hear you. Not able to hear you at all. Not able to hear you. Anyone else can hear, Prabhu?
No, Prabhu, I cannot hear. So another, while Hari Kirtan Prabhu will be back, I have another point also.
Mhm.
So as our breeds in Northeast will be more sort of winter breed, like they like cold climates.
Yeah.
How you are thinking that will go to a hotter climates like in Africa you are suggesting, right?
All these are considerations. So there are colder places also, and in many of the bulls they are adaptable to heat. Definitely, these are all considerations. Like Ethiopia has many colder climates,
Mhm.
and they won't work well. So gradually, these things have figured out. This is a vein of opportunity that one has to now perfect it gradually by experimentation, seeing which breeds will go well where and match them up.
Were you able to hear what I said, Prabhu?
No, not at all. Just now, for this is the first sentence we are able to hear.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that I I understand the what you're saying about the bulls being engaged in these places, but it seems to me what this highlights is that in our modern society, we don't have a place for bulls.
But
There's
couple of more. I'm wanting to come to that more before we make a conclusion like this. Uh,
okay.
well, this is one of the ways. Definitely, what you are saying is a definite danger, well considered. I mean, most probably they will be killed. You know, what I'm hoping to do is first of all to bring, like, there is an ecosystem being I mean, there is right now there is no hope, right now. At least there is some hope that they will be used for long many years. One way our responsibility finishes one when we sell it, but in a larger context it does not. Like in an ecosystem where the bulls were being sold in Vedic India, let's say, once you sell it, you are not, like, trying to take care what they are doing and what they will do and all these things, because you did your best and you trained and you sold and everything. But in a larger context, knowing that they may be killed, most probably they will be killed, we need to do something about it. So what I've been thinking is, as part of creating this ecosystem, just like in the same manner that we are creating retirement farms here, once they are no more able to be used, and I don't know if it is possible to do, but something to explore is with the same people who are trying to helping us donate the bulls in that region, and we will have to build some training places, some place where this all these things will be happening. People will be coming and getting trained in these bulls, or buying, selling things will be happening there. We build these kind of retirement places, which are much cheaper than doing it in the US for sure. And anyway, they were used for the whole life. I don't know how the world will work in the future and other things, and but I feel there is, because we come to that other part, that even as when they are not productive and not being used, there are uses for the bulls still, like like these. Let's say those two, we were saying, out of five, those two bulls, two male calves are cannot be trained to do train are not possibly be trained as oxen trains, being controlled and everything, temperament or health or whatever opportunistic reasons, or so then all these things which Shuddha Sattva Prabhu posted, these Mennonites and Amish people, they have come up with all these cow, what does it call these? They call them, uh, what do you say? You run in the morning on a machine,
Treadmill.
treadmill. So there are these cow treadmills, cow treadmills. Okay, this is like a normal thing. And I have seen these Amish and Mennonite people using these three or four. They are producing enough mechanical power to run all their tools and washing machine and laundry and everything. They are doing it using this, and they keep healthy too, the cows. Oxen, healthy oxen can work 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening, and with little short breaks. So 8 hours, if you plan out for them to work, that's a lot of mechanical power generated. Anyway, you have to feed them. So all these needs, what I'm getting to is all these needs ecosystem of research created with exact parameters. This breed, this much of feeding when it is done, and their body weight is this much. When they work this in this condition of a climate, they can produce this much of mechanical energy, and with these gears one can produce this much of mechanical power or electric power, which one can store, or so and so forth, or some other activity, removing water or whatever. So all these are research activities that one has to do. Definitely, what Harikirtan Prabhu is saying, it's not that if, let's say, it was in our power, we won't make male calves, because we can do without them too. But I mean, many people around the world cannot, so that is there. But in the West, we can do without them too, and there is no place, as you are saying. But this is how cows are. They are producing milk without, they can't produce milk without babies, and the male cows will come out because of Krishna's arrangement. Now it's our duty to figure out what to do with them productively enough, so that financially it is still possible for homesteaders and dairy, to keep it financially viable. I have many more things to add on what other things which we can explore, but I want to hear from you and other devotees if you have any other thoughts on this matter. Yes, Shuddha Sattva Prabhu?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, you said 4 hours, means totally you said 8 hours. How you came to this 8 hours conclusion, Prabhu?
Just from personal understanding by working with the bulls, oxen, and talking to farmers and like that. So 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening, they can healthily keep working every day.
But isn't in India like when people used to go for tilting the field, they'll go early in the morning and they'll come back in the evening. So wouldn't be like I was under the impression around 10 to 12 hours
No, no,
they were getting means in a not like directly 12 hours but with breaks.
resting and everything.
Yeah,
It's
because
4 hours.
human will also need break, right? Means they cannot work continuously 12 hours. But
4 hours in the morning for a just general thumb of rule.
okay.
Draft animal person you talk to, they will
Mm.
say something like this. Reasonable. And they have to be fed. I mean, just like human beings, children, they're like children, and you just have to coax them to do it, and you have to work with them, and they can't work alone like this. So, and your time, 8 hours, is very important too, very valuable.
Hare
So,
Krishna Prabhu.
yes, Prabhu. Hare.
So, a little bit of math behind that. A single bull can produce about 560 watts per hour in their work, which is not a lot of electricity. The average, most people's blender uses about 1,500 watts. So, or 1,000 to 1,500 watts. So, one bull working an 8-hour day at a pace that is not punishing produces about 4.5 kilowatt hours. Most households use about 30 kilowatt hours in a day. So you're looking at roughly 6 to 7 bulls to produce the power that one household uses in a day. And that's working all day long. So again, I guess this comes to the question in my mind. This is kind of where I was going with this question, and that is, if the bulls are going to be given meaningful work in a modern setting, in a modern context, we have to actually rethink the way that we live. I don't think there's any way around it. That because we have the machines and we have, all these other things that do this work that have made animal work obsolete. So I would like to know if there's anyone that has information that would contradict that. But that's from what I can tell, that's the conundrum that we face about engaging bulls is with our modern conveniences, they don't really have a meaningful position in this society.
So I know where you're going with this. Oh, see, human being will go where, I mean, for them, bulls are not so like to, because I want cow milk, and the male cows are being produced because they are not being utilized properly. So I will change my lifestyle. You see, even Vaishnavas, how many will change their lifestyle to for that reason? It's like maybe you can count on your hand, maybe one hand, how many will change all over the world. It's like very, very rare if people would do that motivation, that bond and that love, and it's
Sure, no, that is understandable, and actually, I expect that. I think that's true. But I think also trying to really create what could be considered ethical dairy is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, while maintaining the modern standard of living that most people expect. You know,
what
what adjustments are necessary to make that possible? I don't know. But I do think that a big part of this equation to make the bulls meaningful and make them useful and worth keeping is going to require some level of adjustment in the way that we live. And I think that's a very big part of the equation of working with cows and oxen and bulls, in a humane and ethical and, you know, a responsible way.
So, what do you suggest? Meaning, practically, when we go, I mean, as you know, no, we can write on paper and think like this, all these things, but when you directly talk to people, okay, you should, I mean, change, I mean, what change and how many people, and exactly what would one do to make this work?
I mean, that's a much larger discussion. And I think that so kind of along the lines of what I mean by that, and where my mind goes in that regard is, okay, the use of them of bulls to generate electricity is I think an excellent idea. I think that it could be, if set up properly, where the bulls are not they're kept in a nice way where it's not completely um anyway, the environment has to be nice. Then we see, okay, what is the power output that they can produce realistically and over time, and how much manpower is required to maintain that. Can one person maintain a collection of 10 or 12 bulls, or can that are working in these generators or the treadmills or however it is set up, or is that beyond the scope? You need more of a team of men, or that would have to be figured out. Then based on what they can produce, then you can see, okay, well, this is the level of electricity that a household can use. Also, what is the cost to maintain those bulls? What is the cost to maintain 10 working bulls? Can one household cover that cost? Is this so? Then it is the need of bulls is much greater, and then you have to have somebody to maintain them. So, like, working through that equation just to see where is the practicality, where does it actually start to make sense, where the bulls are benefiting. I think a big part of it ultimately comes down to economics. Is it cheaper for me to buy the electricity from the power grid and just pay the savings into just keeping the bulls separate, or like a lot of that is what it comes down to, because ultimately that's kind of where people generally will fall, is they will fall towards the simplest, easiest solution.
And
We're averse to making things more difficult. But I think that conscious choice, like, okay, I am going to, shift my lifestyle. I mean, Srila Prabhupada came to this country and proposed such a radically different way of life that people told him the Westerners would never accept. And we saw that actually so many people accepted it. So I think that equation, kind of figuring out just where the bulls are useful and how much of our life we have to change in order for that to make sense. That is the discussion in that regard.
we have to, don't we have to work with what we have now instead of thinking some, like if we like bring up this thing that you have to change your lifestyle, stop using the tractor to do farming and going to work, or change everything around. I mean, it's like not in a way, I can't get anybody practically, not even one devotee, like maybe one devotee, two devotees.
Sure. But realistically, what is how do you take care of the question of the bulls? What do you do with them? If you
Exactly.
are maintaining a dairy, what do you do with them?
There are, just like we were discussing, there are all over the world hundreds of millions of, there is requirement for hundreds of millions of these.
Yes, but then you're like I said, then you're sending them away, and the guarantee or it's almost certainty that they will be killed at some point.
Right.
And
So
so,
if
can you
that,
really claim that the dairy is ethical?
definitely. So that is where, if it is so cheap to buy a farm, let's say in Africa, one place, and get, if you can't maintain the bull here, you send them here to us. It's so cheap to maintain it. That whole, because those people do need it. I mean, there is a need in the world for draft animals, even if with ec- all the advancements, everything, whatever is possible of tractor use, police, everything. There are places which I mentioned in the hilly tracts and rice fields, subsistence farmers, places which are away from the cities and dealership networks and all these other necessities. It'll be there. I mean, you can't take away the geographical, like the constraints of the terrain.
No, that is understandable. I mean, I see that the need is there, definitely.
So we can
But
create some retirement from it. It's such a huge ecosystem would have to be created to bring the oxen from this place to another place. Their
mhm.
training facilities have to be created. So if that ecosystem is being created, then this also could be created, no, simultaneously with it. That is only an extension. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, any of this, but I was thinking of older times, these like Arabian horses. They were coming from one, they were being transported across the seas. I know for sure, for a fact, that this was happening. And I've read where this from that country, this kind of breeds were being imported. All that's even in Jaisalmer, when I'm there, when I was there, I was hearing of all these years gone by, hundreds of years gone by, where these Thar Parker oxen, they were trained, sent all over the world, like all over the countries they were being sent because they were such good bulls. That's how I started thinking about this idea of trying to export the oxen team, because that was being done because this is like Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam, we were reading, at least 1 dozen cows any householder should keep. So many oxen would be produced, no, males cows will be produced. So what were they doing? They were also shipping to everywhere in local place, South India, everywhere, and they are big demand of these Thar Parker oxen to be all over India. I know in Bengal I saw them, and I asked, where did you get this? Oh, some dealer brought them to us, like from one party middleman. They bring it from Rajasthan. So this is like a whole trading system has been there for centuries and maybe for millennia, where ox trains are transported across state lines and country lines and such. So it's not there now, but part of that system would be to create that, recreate it, and maybe with more distance. I don't know how it will all fructify, but that is also a way I'm thinking. Why not to recreate it back up again? So I mean that is one. I mean, this is kind of matching the people who are in need for them, and here we don't have need for them. Even in the US, there is need for ox trains, oxen, where especially in the springtime, we ourselves, when the snow is thawing, and we need to go and start working the soil, we can't, especially when it rains, because or the ground is already wet already before, because tractors, if they go, they will get the no, they will compact the soil, and then it becomes not a very good soil to work with. So so that's why many times this auction, if we have, and I was just thinking about it, if we can, some devotee can make this as a business, that they can take their ox team, because these are also small farms, half acre, 1 acre farms in north our around us, and they can go and and till it in the spring and in the summer, and sometimes when it rains in the autumn time, they can go and do it, and these people can use that in their marketing brochures and other things, because even if 15 days or 20 days before, one can till the land, which wasn't able to be done because it is dependent on tractor, and tractor is dependent on lack of rain and dry soil, then that 15 20 days is a big deal for farmers. It's like a huge deal for farmers in northeast, because one could get to market faster than other farmers. So I know they will pay for it. I worked out the finances for it. But also, and the logging in wind and snow, same issues come, unless it is a very large tract of area which needs to be cleared, and the machinery can come in and, with permits and taken out. They make logging roads and everything. When it is a smaller area, 10, 15 acres, and it has to be logged, then it is not workable financially for big machinery to come in and big crew to come in. So, and there already people are doing this auction, using auction to log 5 acre, 2 acre, these things. So it just it just needs to be figured out and put into place structure and everything. Nobody is like really working on it, right now. So it requires ingenuity, organization, management, funding, research work, how to really make it financially viable. Because even when producing electricity, one needs to use the gears and everything properly, so that the torque is producing more optimum way the electricity, which has been done, but not a real research in university which can be replicated. I have been to places which they have been doing this, using it in their own places, and they've really worked out the system. These are Amish and Mennonite people, and they had a whole lathe machine, like a whole machinery, like machine tool shop, used with 10 oxen, and they were going 10 horses. They were going all around. So I know for sure there is knowledge available. The use is possible, which can be made into, like, if two oxen are there together working, it is not worth it, like you said. But if four oxen, not in a family but in a village setting, so that village has 50 cows or 50 oxen. Now 10 oxen, 20 oxen, they are in a train producing electricity, then it becomes viable, because they are anyway there. I worked out the food and everything. It is because we are anyway there. We are feeding them. So the only thing is about human beings intervention and a little bit maintenance. So that works out when there are more than 10 oxen there. So things like that has to be figured out and proper do a research with the university. So that's what I want to do at our farm in New York. Bharat Prabhu?
Yeah, I can see that this could work with a lot of oxen producing electricity. Now then you need the treadmills being produced in a way that is feasible. I get we are mixing different kind of visions together, and then it seems like we are mixing different big pictures and different puzzles, and the puzzle pieces do not fit together. So I'll share what I see here. When Hari Kirtan is saying it seems almost not feasible. I hear the big desire that it is feasible in some way, but not feasible for what? For uh, the normal average person in society to keep oxen. Is that our goal? I don't think so, and not at this stage at least. So for now, maybe it could be that first we support the conversion of some of the existing cow farms that where they sell meat or where they are doing dairy farming, but they are selling the oxen. So we help the ones that already work with cows to kill less oxen or don't kill them at all, because they see there's so much utility. And also, not just looking in different stages, we now we make some assumptions that the world is as it is at the current moment, and the world is changing. So the financial systems, if the wars and bombing of oil refineries and other power infrastructure is going on, then power will be more and more costly, and people will have less valuable money. Let's say in the next 10 years or so, this is continuing to go on. What a wonderful time for us in the context of this purpose. So do we really need to break our brain, or maybe we just endeavor and try with whatever is there to do what we can, and then the rest is on Krishna. If there's a favorable wind, then we can go very far. So what I think is feasible for us now is very practical. For example, what you describe, Nimai Prabhu, when the 10 horses, they go around and they run the machinery with that. I think what you refer to is that old ox power, the horsepower, the old horsepower. And I think it's quite easy to remodel that with some money, with some engineering, research and development. And then you just need some conversion of the existing tools, and already Mennonites or Amish are doing that. The point is just that there needs to be enough demand for it to sell in a higher mass, so that that there can be a feasible ecosystem being created with this ox power. I think that is very, very powerful. If people that are farming with cows, if they get devices like biogas devices. Now you can already get that from India or in Africa for less than $1,000, where you can make your own biogas, transportable, and you have all the devices to cook just from cow dung. So if we give more and more utilization for what the cow or the ox is producing, by helping people with the knowledge, or helping with conversion kits, or with full systems of ox mills for flours, for grains, and for making oil, for other other applications, like here in Portugal, you can use the ox for pulling water from a well, and you get money. You get money from the government, at least here. And yeah, in the past it was unthinkable to use biogas in Europe, but now people are open for that. So I spoke to one lady who is an entrepreneur in that field, and she was only doing that in Africa, and she was thinking she is going bankrupt. She was thinking she needs to close their business. And a couple of years ago, then I think 2 years ago, it was when biogas came back big time, where now people see how costly power is. So yeah, this needs just some research. I see this is it's kind of easy if you look at the business case. It's not super hard. Like these devices, they can be produced cheaper than ever, and there is a utility for it, and there are already countries where, like here in Portugal, I think some farmers, they would use something like that because they are not working in agriculture with big tractors and monoculture. They are still working closer to the land, and it's more rural, and they get money from the government. So some people we have here in our village, they only have cows for getting the money from the government. They live from that partially. And one guy, he's having a breeding bull, and he sometimes gets money from bringing the bull to a contest. So the bull is just living from being a breeding bull. And so there are use cases. They might be rare, but with a whole ecosystem and feasible machinery, which in the beginning must be subsidized. You don't have enough demand to live from producing that. But I can imagine with an initiative like yours, researching and engaging people in creating proper business cases out of this, and then showcasing with some proof of concepts, then why shouldn't it work? Yeah.
I mean, I feel that Shreya wanted us to show an ideal so that people can understand and adopt. It is not like an ideal for us and that's it, So I've been, from that point of view, I've been trying to think that what can people adopt, which they can do.
So the
Yeah. As you are rightly saying, if there are more favorable winds, let's say there is a war situation or economic collapse or diesel shortages or like really very high price of electricity and these kind of constraint
yeah
come where we have already now, let's say by the time if that happens, we would have already researched all this, they we have set up with the machinery, all these things. Okay, we have to, right now we are exporting all these oxen. Later on, here itself, people may start wanting them because this has become a necessity. Then locally, we may start using that to preach and show.
yeah
I
um,
mean, right now there is no favorable wind to do that. We can't convince an American farmer to adopt ox power when he is already under 100 other constraints. It's not a necessity right now for him to start thinking about that because that's so cheap, the power.
yeah
So
at,
why?
yeah
But there are other farmers in the world who need it.
yeah so there are other markets to start with, definitely. I don't know how feasible the exporting business could be. I mean, in some cases, but it's hard to develop. It's really not that you're not having a favorable wind, but there's rather a wind from the front. It sounds to me at the current moment it could be much more feasible to set up more independent, decentralized centers that train in different continents and then do it from there.
What do we do about the male calves being produced in the Northeast, let's say? If we start creating a model here and start making many dairies, they start adopting, yes, we will not kill our oxen. It's not just having money to just keep them in a retirement home, but to put them to work too, and a place where it can be safe.
Yeah, maybe then the first thing is to check what is the tipping point, when is ox power becoming feasible, what's the break even at which point, and what can help to incentivize it. And yeah, till that time maybe it makes sense to do some importing, but that that needs some more convincing numbers, at least for me.
Favorable winds. I realize that if we don't have favorable winds and during farming, then it becomes unviable, and then people will give up. I've seen in villages in India so much that it's not viable to farm and maintain a family. So that's how it's not viable. So that's how the children they sent to the cities, and they're crowding out the cities. And if it is not
But
financially viable, it just won't happen.
it just sounds a little bit too complicated for me, with all respect. There are easier steps in the beginning, for example, to convince the devotees and help people like Ramananda, who already have the cows there, to test and showcase that machineries like mentioned, that they are being applied. And otherwise, how to get all the people from to train so many bulls that needs years to build up.
Maybe we should have started there. So definitely on our farm, we should be able to use bulls to do oxen to do most of the a lot of farm work, not large portion of lifting or digging part, excavating and such, but for transporting and tilling. And so I want to show you this. Where was this?
Muted or no?
Second, let me show this. Yeah. Oh, this is here. Where did it go? This here. One second. See this, all of these, no, they're used, so many implements are there. These are Amish people. They have all kinds of implements behind horses, all kinds. Balers, see, then dump trailer, small ones, then let's say gang mower, then new PTO carts they have, these ones, just like tractor, then harrows for weeding purposes, spring ones, and logging cart, simple thing, just pulling, and then plow, of course, gang ones, and then the Portlive is the one. Even the rocks it is able to do. So they have produced a lot of it. Mm. It has to be adjusted for Oxen. I spoke to them about doing it for Oxen because they are lower and wider. So they may have a little work to do. And just for one or two people, it is not worth it for them to produce. But if it is like what I was hoping to do is a research project for doing this for adapting this to Oxen, and so then we may be able to get all these things rototiller, you know. So these are possible to do, like this haulers, trail wagons, of course, big wagons. All these we should be able to do on our farm. I've been thinking having something like this when tourists come. We are planned out all the roads all around the farm. So tourists come, we take them in this ox wagon like this all around the farm and show. And so our farm, we can do most of the farming and transporting with oxen. And it is much more peaceful and enlivening, and we are, but that is a limit how many oxen we can use ourselves. And then I was thinking even having a Tesla charger, electricity is using these ox trains, and it will become a quite a good because of this clash of cultures, it can become quite a popular spot for media and all these things to highlight these things. And even if if the oil is being cold pressed using these ox train, even though it will be expensive, but as a tourist thing and trying to like a novelty, people may buy it just to support. So these kind of like unique, like really fringe but very educational activities we can do, we should do. This is one of the things which I want to do at the farm, using our current oxen and everything. But when we talk about as a model for other people to adopt, that you also now adopt this, some people may be able to do it for their, because the use of the wagons and all is so less on dairy farms. It is just like nothing much is being used. And even if they use for produce some vegetables here there, even we can't use all the oxen that would be produced. I calculated we'll get around 50 oxen in about a few years. I forget the number of years, but very few years we will have around 50 oxen. What do we do with 50 oxen? We can't use it at the farm. We have to sell. Even that is a Vedic way is to sell. So to make a structure around it, like a big structure where this is possible for other people to adopt. I couldn't figure out a way. And then recently, like a few years, I started thinking of doing this whole selling. Yes, as you say, it is a huge endeavor. And I'm hoping in this whole ecosystem, a few devotees come who try to do this kind of different people who want to do this. There are enough people with this thought process or desire to do something. They don't have the direction to do it. I'm hoping we can engage people like that and in association. Hey, Prabhu. Any last thoughts before you go, Prabhu? Oh Lord, he left. Okay, we will end here. Ramananda Prabhu, you have any thoughts till now before we finish?
Yes, Prabhu, just one last thing, just to address what you were talking about, with regards to having to find more ways to engage the bulls beyond the farm. So it makes me wonder about an point of equilibrium where it would almost appear the way just by the conclusion that any dairy would produce more oxen than, I'm trying to think of how to word it. It makes me think of a sort of a closed ecosystem. There should be like a small version of an ecosystem where all of our research comes to the point where we find exactly the right number of uses for the oxen, and we minimize we can minimize the number of oxen as much as possible. That's something that we've discussed. And one of the things that I wanted to ask from the very beginning was if there are any authorized references to historical control, population control of bulls and cows, or if this is something that is completely a new concept, or was it left to chance historically? I don't know if we've addressed that.
You mean
Whether
culling
there's
kind of population control or just not breeding them?
no, just breed. Is there any historical reference, Vedic reference, that legitimizes our desire to want to have 80% females, 20% males being born?
I don't know about that, but at least we know about there is reference to you can select what you want. Or you can make it more of a probability you will get male or female. Both
There's a
in
historical Vedic reference to that. That
historical, I don't know, but there is a Vedic reference, so I'm sure it was put there because people were using and people were using it. We don't know.
okay. Would you be do you know where that reference is, and would you be able to post
That
it?
that in Ayurveda also it is written, and I'll post
Okay.
you the reference where human beings and cows both can be you used like that.
Okay, that was just to legitimize the concern and the effort to I know that it was something that was done, and Srila Prabhupada even said it in his books, how to make sure that you have a male child or a female child if that's what you want according to the cycle and so on. So it makes sense to me that it could also be a consideration in managing cow herds. So that was just one thing. I just wanted to see if I could at least have some reference so it would completely legitimize that concern and that effort. Um, and then the other thing was um, in a closed system, let's say like a small, and it doesn't necessarily need to apply to just a small village, but even if it were like a big nation, do you? It would seem like you have more oxen than people know what to do with. And the reason why you end up with more oxen is because you end up having to have dairies that are large enough to supply the demand for milk. So I would think that the goal would be to find enough occupations for all the bulls that would be produced in an area in accordance with the amount of milk that is necessary to supply the demand in that given area. So whether that applies to a village or a region or a country or the world, there must be some point where there's an equilibrium.
Yeah. I mean, this is how, in the direction I'm thinking, I haven't quantified it, except on our farm. I figured out within a short years, I will have 50 oxen to figure out what to do. That's how I started thinking, because we can't do a closed loop in this because my farm like this is not possible to do 50 oxen. And
But
so,
is it also not true that your farm, in the way that you conceived it, would be able to supply milk for many more inhabitants than just simply the farm itself?
sure,
Have you done a calculation? How many human consumers that your farm would be able to supply?
200 people,
200 people.
200
200 men, women, and children, or
families.
200 families?
Yeah.
How many cows milking was that? From is that what? How many cows milking would produce
Uh,
50
let's see.
oxen?
We have this all. So I'm gonna bring that up. So we will have
So I didn't mean for it to carry on the conversation longer than reasonable, but it's just I was thinking that maybe that would be a good metric to use if it's at all able to be demonstrated.
294 families with 500 gallons per week with 20 cows milking. But if 12 cows are there, then it is around 290, 300 gallons.
Two,
And around
okay, 12
300 gallons,
cows.
12 milking cows, 20 cows, around 500 gallons per week, and 1.5 gallon per family per week. That is the Northeast survey.
1.5 gallons per family per week.
Yeah, that is how
We
much.
drink that. We drink that in a day.
I know you are, we are, but most families they just buy 1.5 gallon per week.
That is that just the liquid milk, or is that including the cheese, butter, and
Only liquid milk.
liquid milk? Okay.
So we did this calculation. Milk was 350 gallons for, and then yogurt and paneer like that. So
Mm-hmm.
from that, we know 1.5 times we do, it comes to be, and if some more products are being produced, ghee and butter, so we came to the conclusion that 20 cows can produce all the dairy products of 200 families per week, basically, this is the calculations.
Of 200 families. Okay.
Yeah.
And
20,
then you would reach an equilibrium of 50 oxen, or there would be a certain point at which you would have already 50 oxen.
yeah, I didn't pick it up, but I don't know how many years, but I did this calculation. And because it's like a pyramid, because new babies and they're all these things. So there was a whole calculation I did.
Yeah.
And in a few years, we were ending up with 50 oxen, 50 male calves.
Even
So
with gendered insemination.
gendered insemination is not possible after 2, 3 years. Remember, we were
Okay.
after 2, 3 years, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I was curious to ask in the model that you have there, how often, because I know
About,
the
I've
dairy
been
industry
thinking
here
one and
is
a
they're
half years.
inseminated 1 year
I've
every
been
year.
thinking 1.5 years.
Okay.
Um, it depends on the cow also and the feed and everything. But I know 1 year they have been talking like that, but we tried it and we see that they keep giving milk. Of course, it comes down a lot. And if they can maintain around 3 gallons, right now our cows are at 1.5 years and they are giving like couple of gallons. But I think if we give them a little bit grains, little like 1 pound grain or something, half grain, half pound, we can get to 3 gallons. So that is okay for them to do this much.
Mm.
So
Anyway, it would just be interesting to see that. Well, yeah, where would the equilibrium be, and then if there's any kind of way to see, okay, this, if we have this many cows uh, to supply the demand, it will end for milk products, and it will um, require that we have this many oxen to find engagements for in a particular area. So you have a population of 200 families, that's maybe 1,000 people, if the average family is a family of 5, and with 1,000 people, do you reach a balance of 50 oxen? So you need to find engagements for 50
Those
oxen in
more.
a village of 1,000 people.
Yeah, I mean, 50, they were more than 50.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's the number, but I'm just, as just for the
But as
sake
soon
of,
as I figured out that within a few years I would get 50 and I'll have to figure out what to do with them 50 oxen. So
yeah.
it's increasing more. So
But at some point, do you agree that they should match the otherwise you're constantly it would almost be like we're constantly looking for people who do not consume milk in order to use. It would like depend on people who do not consume milk to to be able to make use of oxen. Otherwise,
what is the why not? I mean, why should we limit to that? Why are we connecting it to the drinking of milk? It is
well,
ideal,
because
but
yeah, no, because the people that would be, let's say, using the oxen, they'll be consuming milk as well. So they're somewhere else producing oxen that they can't use. So they'll be killing they'll be killing the oxen.
I understand where you're going. But see, the Vedic system was that the oxen were being transported across states and countries.
But right, okay, so no, that's what I'm saying. So then maybe is there a possibility that there are human populations somewhere that just do not consume large quantities of milk? And therefore, if there's an imbalance in the number of oxen that are being produced compared to that are not
Is it
able to be
all
used
of
amongst the
most
dairy
of
consuming population,
a
and they
large
can be sent.
portion of Africa is like that, South America is like that, because they are consuming milk, but it's not, they are not producing the milk, or they don't know what to do with the oxen. They don't know how to train them. Many times the oxen are not of the right, temperament to be trained, and they are not looking at that. So that whole training has to be done. But there is, why were the oxen being transported across state lines? Because the quality also matters. Quality of the oxen, because they can, similar to cows producing milk in a day this much quantity, which makes it then profitable. Similarly, the oxen productivity also is similar, because if the oxen is not productive enough, then it is not financially viable. So even if they have oxen, they can't use them if they are not trained well, or the whole stature and the strength and temperament is not there of those oxen. So the market of oxen, well trained, good quality oxen, is always there, is always going to be there in the world.
Yeah. But then, so then the question would be like, okay, well, they're consuming milk, they can produce it locally, right? And then they're buying oxen from somewhere else where they're well trained, and that ends up being at the expense of the oxen that they inevitably produce themselves.
I mean, the point is that anyway they are going to be doing it. I mean, I don't know how much, we are not like world, like kings, no, that we have to take care of every king, every kingdom, every country and every place, everything.
Yeah,
I mean, we can. I mean, what I know is that the selling of oxen outside the local area was being done in extensively. Now, how much percentage, I don't know, but that was being done extensively. There are records of it. Then there are, I mean, everyone understands the Arabian horses were being transported all over the world. And similarly, there were uh, elephants also, camels. I mean, these are all animals being transported here, there, because they have these qualities which are in use. So I mean, in absolute terms, from our point of view, yes, it will. If we are that kind of service is given, then we would want to make sure that those people also take care of their cows and animals similarly.
Yeah, I wasn't coming necessarily from that point of view. You know, of being, I mean, it is obviously a concern, but not being too concerned about what other people are doing, but just as a matter of interest to see if it's something that can be promoted, you know, as some propaganda that we've actually understood a concept where we can create a closed loop, like, or this is sort of the goal, where if we can find this many engagements, then we know that we have a general guarantee that there'll be enough demand for the oxen that there won't need
Sounds
to
very
be.
good if we can put our minds to it. But now the people, if they are drinking milk and if they are not agrarian, how do we get them to? And the zoning doesn't allow all these things. And how do we?
Yeah, well,
So
I guess ideally maybe it would work in a preference to developing local uses and economies, you know, and exporting as a last resort. Um,
that sounds,
just to,
ideally, that would be the perfect if
yeah.
somebody can do that too. So that find among those 200 families, 50 oxen or maybe 100 oxen, I don't know how many will be there to be utilized in all these years. Gradually, it will increase to 50, 100 oxen and more. The oxen will live till they are productive around 17, 18 years. Productive
Hmm.
that they cannot be worked, but they could still produce electricity because they can walk and they'll need the exercise and they can poop and cow dung, cow urine can be produced. So, so locally, yeah, I have to see how much.
I would love to do the exercise and to see like what is the minimum number of oxen that can be produced, you know, with the maximum amount of milk, and then how many people how many people's demand for milk supply will that serve, and so therefore, in theory, how many engagements would there need to be? And then, you know, go to the extent of our imagination of, well, okay, we have this many oxen doing this, you know, that this many oxen doing that, and you know, just to sort of gauge, see where we're at and where there's an imbalance, how much of an imbalance there is. If we put all the, you know, if we control all the variables, like, okay, well, we're going to reduce it from 50-50 to 80-20, or, you know, but that's only for the first 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. So in reality, the equilibrium will be more like 66%, 33% bulls if it's applied. And then just sort of see like what is the burden locally in a
I mean, I don't know if we can use the sex semen thing beyond 2 years. After
yeah.
2 years, it is unworkable.
But I would imagine, I would imagine that, I mean, there is such a critical mass in the modern dairy industry that everybody must be applying it. And so they must have come to some sort of equilibrium now where they know that, you know, a gendered semen applied to the greatest extent possible has now produced that there's a, you know, countrywide average of every, it's, you know, 2/3 of every calf born is a female, and only 1/3 of all calves being born are males. Have they not reached that point yet?
They have,
Or
but
is
the
it
problem is they are killing the cows at 5, 6 years of age now. So
okay, yeah. No, but I know that. Oh, so it
so,
wouldn't necessarily apply.
yeah, doesn't work
But
for us.
at least we'd have some data to work from, and then, you know, we would apply our own little variable.
But because it's only for one or two third till this third breeding is final. After that, they cannot. So it
Yeah.
is
How many breedings had you envisioned would be the maximum
maximum
for the
sex semen or only three maximum.
three? But how many maximum in total for in the lifespan of a cow?
It's 10, no?
Sorry, I missed that.
10?
Oh, 10. Okay. Do you know what the industry standard is now here in North
3,
America?
maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, I had understood that it was 5 or 6.
Oh, by 4, 5 of years of age, they are gone. So that's the average age of doing organic dairy. So 1.5 year, 1 year, 2 months, 3 months, that's their first breeding. And then when they're 2, 3 year old, the second baby is delivered. 3 year, 4 year old, third baby is delivered. And that's it. 2 to 3 breedings they do, and that's it.
And
Some,
what made you want to breed beyond 2 or 3 times? Is there an efficiency in breeding the same cow more often than 2 or 3 times?
I mean, after 5 year of age, she has a lifetime of another 10 years now of reproduction.
Yeah. But then what do you do with the you would end up with some cows that you would uh, well, you would end up with female cows that you would need to either leave as heifers or start to have producing milk.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we need that, no? We want that, no?
Yeah. Okay, so you feel like it's more efficient to continue to breed them beyond the 5 or 6 years than it is to have 10 years of even though it produces another dairy cow than it is to retire them earlier.
It's a waste, no? If the cow is retired early, I don't know why would we want to retire when we can breed and get more milk and fat.
Oh, well, yeah, because of the economic sort of issues. Well, maybe they don't produce as much on the, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th lactation because I know there's a standard graph of how much milk they produce on average for each lactation. It's very,
I mean, I have seen cows produce quite a lot even when 12-year-old, 13-year-old,
hmm
because
yeah,
they're happy, healthy, and they have been sustainably taken care of throughout their lifetime. They are good breeds anyway, and their gut health is being maintained well, reproductive health is well. All these things combined together, they can keep producing.
yeah,
It won't go
yeah.
down like that. Like what is
Okay.
done in modern dairies, because they just kill the cow the way they are treating. So after fourth or fifth, she doesn't want to do it anymore. She knows her baby is going to go, and there is no motive to live. So she's basically dead, dying from inside, and so many health issues. Every person tells me the reason. I asked every dairy. I ask them, why do you, after 3 or 4 years, why do you finish them off? Everybody told me they start getting sick.
Oh,
Not because of the milk production goes down, but because they start getting sick, average when you take the milk which is going into selling, because when she's sick, you cannot use that milk. That is why they are calculating it, not that their production of quantity of milk goes down.
have you visited free stall installations? In your travels, have you seen a mixture of freestall versus tie stall?
Yeah, both.
And have conditions not generally improved in the freestall systems that are becoming so much
Like,
more common?
it's a little bit different. The main thing is the babies are not kept with them and then they are gone. So the motivation for
Yeah,
the cow is motherly. No? I see the cows, they become depressed, most depressed, more depressed, more depressed. That's the big, they have like malady, like they are like inside depressed.
yeah,
And that's the biggest reason I mean, it's so stressed out. Of course, other things also add to it, like few other things like this, free stall and tie stall and everything. Winter time especially, the tie stall will be having more problems. And but these are all smaller things compared to their babies themselves being taken away. Just imagine a
yeah,
mother.
yeah.
So they're
Okay, Prabhu, I
very.
don't mean to carry it on too long. I do have to go, but
Hare Krishna.
it was
This
just
is
some final thoughts lasted a little too long. Sorry, Prabhu.
Good. Oh, this is a good discussion because this, if it can be figured out, maybe 70, 80, 100 oxen for before they start dying off naturally anyway. Before I will make this calculation, see if in this community we can find ways for them, and
Mm-hmm.
community can figure out ways to adopt them and get work done for them, and mowing the lawn, something, so that it becomes viable within the community.
Some cottage industry ideas for somebody who would like to say just have a team of oxen and find all kinds of different ways to employ them for some
A
money.
lot still, 50, 70, 80
Yeah,
oxen.
yeah, yeah.
Electricity wise and all these things we can talk about it, but still I think this export thing and needs to be definitely be kept as the backup, because these farmers want oxen. There is a need. They wanted a good team of oxen. They are dependent on oxen. Why should we limit it? In Vedic times also, not just live animals, but grains, spices, everything was being exported. Why not this too? If we can figure out a way to keep them also safe there as much as we can humanly possible.
Yeah, that's the key word there. Just I imagine that in the past there was, more of an understanding that okay, they're not going to kill it when I send it over there because they have the systems in place where it is valuable. But it's not the case now anymore. So when you sell it to somebody or a neighbor, you don't have that assurance at all. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
Would help set if one is
What's
setting
that?
if one is setting up so many things, we could set up these things also. And I mean,
Yeah.
a lot to do. Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.